Sibuk masing-masing. Vidya, adakah Vidya?
Ada, Pak.
Vidya, ada Vidya?
Ada, Pak, saya, Pak.
Mana?
Saya, Pak. Yayan Pontianak, Pak.
Oh ya, udah dibetulkan ya?
Tinggal yang ujung.
Udah bisa saya langsung kirim?
Ujung kiri atas belum, Pak. Sebentar lagi.
Saya enggak sempat lagi, banyak sekali pesan ini.
Ya,
disesuaikan
oke, Pak.
aja ya.
Iya, Pak, segera, Pak.
Jadi saya langsung forward aja ya. Saya enggak sempat lagi karena di mobile saya itu enggak ada fasilitas untuk WinRAR. Jadi saya bukanya harus pakai laptop. Laptopnya lagi disibukkan. Jadi langsung dikemas lalu saya forward aja ya.
Oh iya, Pak. Oh, suaraku belum.
Bisa kita uji coba, Pak? Sebentar untuk opening.
Boleh, sebentar. Saya masih ada perlu dengan video nih sebentar.
Ya.
Yap. eh,
Halo Vidya.
Ya, Pak.
Kiri atas itu saya lihat tidak ada tanggal ya.
Ada, Pak, yang di bawah yang lengkap 23, 24, 25 dan 28.
Oh, mungkin yang saya lihat ini versi yang lain ya.
Enggak, Pak. Itu kan ada kecil, Pak. Ada yang kerja sama Teflin Pontianak, terus di bawahnya.
Yang sebelah kiri itu kan International Virtual Seminar, a collaboration between bla bla bla. Ya, FTIK, YIN Pontianak dan Teflin, tidak ada tanggal di bawahnya.
Sebentar. Iya, Pak.
Saya lihat tanggal cuma 1.
Yang di kiri atas, Pak, yang di bawah tulisan lengkap. Iya, di bawahnya lagi ada, Pak.
Di atas logo kah?
Iya, di atas logo.
Oh, ini versi yang saya lihat, versi yang nggak ada nih. Jadi samakan aja lah.
Oh iya, Pak. Saya perbaiki sebentar saja, Pak, ya. Oke, Pak. Siap. Mohon ditunggu, Pak.
Oke.
Oke.
Saya nggak usah buka lagi ya, langsung saya forward ya.
Siap, Pak.
Ya, Bu Isti.
Bisa kita mulai sebentar, Pak?
Siap.
Ibu Wardah, are you ready?
Yes, inshallah, ma'am. I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can start with the rehearsal.
Suara saya kedengaran jelas, ma'am? Oke. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, His Excellency the President of Teflin, Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto MPD, the Honorable Head Regional Teflin West Kalimantan, Dr. Ihsanuddin MA, Distinguished Vice Rector 1 of the State Institute of Islamic Studies, IAAN Pontianak, respected speakers, moderators, all participants, and happy audiences, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, good afternoon, and thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be with us here in opening ceremony of webinar Teflin entitled The Direction of English Language Teaching During and Post-Pandemic Contribution to Research and Pedagogy. Collaboration of the State Institute of Islamic Studies with Teflin and supported by Tanjung Pura University, Muhammadiyah University Center for Language Learning Pontianak, and Polytechnic State of Pontianak, Thursday, 24 September 2020. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Wardah. It's my pleasure to be a master of ceremony of this seminar. To begin this seminar, let's say Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Singing the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Is it okay, ma'am? Singing the Indonesia national anthem?
Yeah, I think so.
To be a master of ceremony of this seminar. To begin.
Yes,
next, please. No need to finish the anthem.
Okay. We are pleased to have Dr. Firdaus Ahmad Mhum as Vice Rector, one of YIN Pontianak, to deliver welcoming speech.
Okay, skip it, please.
Thank you for your speech, sir. Our next agenda. I'm honored to invite President of Teflin. Allow me to welcome Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD, for opening remarks.
Okay, skip it, please.
Thank you for Mr. Joko Nurkamto. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the opening ceremony. We would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to our distinguished presenters and to all of you participants of this seminar. Finally, the organizing committee of this webinar deliver apology for any inconvenience, and we hope to meet you again in next agenda. Stay with us. The seminar will shortly after this. Have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So right after the Master of Ceremony finish her part, maybe Bapak Dr. Ihsanuddin will, then the next part of it is Pak Dr. Ihsanuddin to give some announcements. Am I right, Pak?
Apa namanya itu ya? What is written in the program?
In the program, the next part will be the presentation by Bapak Professor Dr.
No, my part is not in. I think it's not announcement. What is it called? Introductory speech. Yeah.
Okay. So when are you going to do the introductory speech?
Yeah, at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is myself. Number two is the rector.
Mm-hmm.
And number three is the president of Teflin.
Okay.
Opening the webinar.
Okay. So maybe Ibu Wardah as the master of ceremony. There is a little bit a change a little bit with the agenda. The first should be the introductory notes. Am I right, Pak Ihsan? From you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, so maybe we stop, Pak. Not yet, Pak.
Is it clear?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Pak Joko, really sorry that I use backdrop of Teflin. Like
no problem. It's good. It's
nanti
good.
dikira saya presidennya.
Gak apa-apa. Pantas Pak.
Welcome, Prof. Joko. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Bu Isti. Mama sehat-sehat ya?
Ya, sehat, Pak.
Iya, alhamdulillah.
Pak Joko, Assalamualaikum.
Bu Wardah. Sehat-sehat ya?
Alhamdulillah, Pak.
Siap.
Ya,
Ini kan
continue, Pak. Sedang rehearsal.
Siap. Oke. Ini memang nggak ada background khusus kan ya? Jadi bebas ya backgroundnya?
Bebas, Pak. Nggak berani bikin logo. Jadi logonya masing-masing. Yang YIN, logonya YIN.
Oke, siap.
Karena saya Teflin regional, saya pinjam punya Teflin pusat.
Ya, siap. Monggo diteruskan rehearsalnya.
I think we finish ya, Pak, ya, with the rehearsal.
Okay.
So we are waiting for the vice rector, the first vice rector to be with us. I haven't seen him. Is there a first vice rector in our together with us?
Can someone text him?
Sudah, Bu. Beliau tadi bilang sholat dulu, Bu.
Okay.
Saya izin sisiran ya.
Iya, Pak.
So anything else maybe from the technicians, the IT people? Anything that you want to share?
Bu Wardah yang diperkirakan hadir siapa saja nanti?
Yang diperkirakan hadir dari presenter, Pak. Kemudian dari IAIN itu Wakil Rektor 1. Kemudian moderator dari beberapa kampus, dari Politeknik Negeri Pontianak, kemudian dari Muhammadiyah Pontianak juga ada. Dari IAIN Pontianak. Ada tambahan Bu Isti, Pak Ihsan?
I think that's it for the time being.
Ya, yang Pak WR1 nanti yang rawuh ya, yang datang ya?
Iya Pak, maaf.
Yang
WR1.
Namanya siapa Bu nanti?
Pak Dr. Firdaus Ahmad M. Hum.
Dr.
Firdaus Ahmad M. Hum.
Firdaus Ahmad. Kalau Bapak Rektor nggak tahu ya, Ibu Rektornya ya?
Enggak, Pak.
Kalau yang Pak Dekan Fakultas Tarbiyah hadir nggak nanti kira-kira?
Pak Sulaiman gimana Pak?
Insya Allah hadir Pak.
Namanya siapa ya namanya?
Dr. Ali Hasmi.
Dr. Ali Hasmi. Hasmi ya?
Iya Prof.
Hasmi.
Saya turun dulu ya sebentar.
Saya mohon izin 5 menit mau membuka ujian ya. 5 atau 7 menit. Oh, tapi waktunya udah. Waalaikumsalam, Bu Dwi. Saya enggak bisa, Bu. Astagfirullah. Ya.
the best.
Do the best, be 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 the best.
Okay, the committee, shortly we are going to start the opening ceremony. Please be ready. I'm just checking. Ibu Wardah, Bapak Dr. Firdaus Ahmad, Prof. Joko Nurkamto, and also Bapak Dr. Ihsanuddin. I think it's ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah, ready?
Ibu Wardah?
Ya, Ma'am, sudah suara jelas, Ma'am?
Ya.
Oke. Okay, we will start our opening ceremony. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency the President of Teflin, Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD, the Honorable Head Regional of Teflin, West Kalimantan, Dr. Ihsanuddin M.Hum, Distinguished Vice Rector 1 of the State Institute of Islamic Studies, IAIN Pontianak, the Dean of Tarbiyah and Teachers Training Faculty, respected speakers, moderators, participants, and happy audiences, ladies and gentlemen, once again, good afternoon, and thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be with us in opening ceremony webinar Teflin entitled The Direction of English Language Teaching During and Post-Pandemic Contribution to Research and Pedagogy. Collaboration of the State Institute of Islamic Studies, IAIN Pontianak, with Teflin, supported by Tanjung Pura University, Muhammadiyah University Center for Language Learning Pontianak, Polytechnic State of Pontianak, today, Thursday, 24 September 2020. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Wardah. It's my pleasure to be Master of Ceremony in this seminar. To begin this seminar, let's say Basmalah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Singing the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, the first agenda is introductory note from Dr. Isanuddin M.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على نبينا محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning to those who are still morning. Good afternoon, of course, for the majority of Indonesian people and Pakistan. Good evening to those who are already evening. Also, midnight in the US. Some of the participants already told me that they would attend this webinar. My name is Iksanuddin. I have been assigned as the coordinator of Teflin for West Kalimantan or Kalimantan Barat area for a couple of years, and then a couple of years ago, and I'm also a lecturer at Universitas Tanjung Pura, one of the sponsors of this webinar. I would like to introduce a bit about this conference, that this is an annual agenda of the regional board of Teflin for West Kalimantan. And I think this is also in every board, every regional board also has a number of agenda, not only annual, but also for certain regional board, they are very, very active. West Kalimantan board, West Kalimantan coordinating board, firstly organized an event last year, a seminar sponsored by Universitas Tanjung Pura, and this is the second program. It is a collaboration between Teflin and the Institute of Islamic Studies, Institute Agama Islam Negeri Pontianak, and supported by several universities like Universitas Tanjung Pura, Universitas Muhammadiyah, and Polytechnic Negeri Pontianak. For those who haven't known Teflin, because the participants from different countries, Teflin is the Association of the Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia. This is the main organization and the main reference of English teaching association and English teaching activities in Indonesia. We have helped thousands of teachers to develop themselves, and also we are the largest organization in the country. Then Institute Agama Islam Negeri is one of our partners that is actively contacting us. So we would like to thank very much to the director of Institute Agama Islam Negeri or the Institute of Islamic Studies of Pontianak. This webinar will take place in 3 days. This is the first day, and tomorrow will be the second day, and the third day will be on Monday, the 28th of September this year. I hope most of you will attend all of these 3 seminars, and we are going to provide a certificate for every participant in every attendance. So if you attend 3 days, you will be awarded 3 certificates. There are a number of speakers in this webinar. Today, we are going to have the president of Teflin, Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto MPD from, if I'm not mistaken, from the Universitas Negeri 11 Maret Surakarta. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Professor. And then we also have Professor Jayakaran Mukundan from University Putra Malaysia. We are also supported by SPELT Pakistan. They sent 5 speakers in to this webinar. SPELT is the Society of Pakistan English Language Teachers. This is also a large organization, I think the largest organization of English teachers in Pakistan. Then we are also supported by NATECLA. NATECLA is National Association for Teaching English and Other Community Languages to Adults. This is in the UK. They sent 2 speakers to us. One more speaker from abroad is from Thailand, Associate Professor Pratya Bidmatni from Fatoni University. From Indonesia, we have 4 speakers. Beside, the first one is Professor Joko Nurkamto, the president of Teflin, and then myself, Dr. Ihsanuddin from Universitas Tanjung Pura. We also have Dr. Yanti Sririzki, Dr. Urai Salam and Dr. Endang Susilawati, also from Universitas Tanjung Pura. The moderators mostly come from Universitas Tanjung Pura and in the Institute of Islamic Studies, EIN Pontianak. Then, besides having presentation and question and answer, we also have a number of panel discussion that will be held by SPELT and by NATECLA. Then I would like to thank very much to the president of Teflin, Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, who actually is a very busy person. And for Kalimantan Barat, for West Kalimantan, I think this is very special for him because so far Kalimantan was not quite active, and we are going to try to activate the organization and a special support from the president. For the Institute of Islamic Studies Negeri, EIN Pontianak, I would like to thank very much the acting rector, Dr. Misda, and also the vice rector one who will be speaking, Dr. Firdaus Ahmad. Dr. Firdaus Ahmad is my colleague, and we have been very close to each other. Thank you very much to all of the committee, especially the steering committee that consists of the sponsors. The steering committee comes from Universitas Tanjung Pura, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Politeknik Negeri Pontianak, and of course EIN Pontianak. To the organizing committee, I would like to thank very much to the coordinator, Mr. Sulaiman, MPD, and then the program coordinator, Dr. Istiqamah, who has been working very hard to communicate with many people, and then to the team of IT and a team of program. I think it's enough from me as the convener, also the chair of the coordinating board of Teflin Kalimantan Barat. Thank you very much. The participants, please attend this very interesting event, and I hope we will learn a lot from this event. Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Goodbye.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ihsanuddin. Now, the next agenda, we are pleased to have Dr. Firdaus Ahmad MHu as the first Vice Rector of IAIN Pontianak to deliver the welcoming speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Alladzi na'udu ilaih ilahana lasna lanal firdausi ahla wa la aqwa 'alan naril jahim. Fahab lana taubatan waghfir dzunubana fa innaka ghafiruz dzambil 'azim. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan 'abduhu wa rasuluhu la nabiyya ba'dah. Allahumma shalli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'a huda wattaqa. Amma ba'd. Honorable Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, President of Teflin, respectable West Kalimantan Regional Teflin Chairman, my senior Dr. Ihsanuddin, who has been willing to cooperate with IAIN Pontianak to organize a webinar today. Hopefully, this collaboration will not stop only in webinars, but we can continue in other forms.
Inshallah.
The Dean and all the leader of Faculty of Tarbiyah and Teacher Training that I'm proud of, especially the Chairman, Secretary, and fellow lecturer of the English Study Program, who always innovate to socialize the presence of the English program in various forms of activities. Ladies and gentlemen, the outbreak of the coronavirus in the life of the world community has actually led us to become virtual beings that minimize face-to-face interaction and replace it with online encounter. This condition certainly requires us to be creative and innovative in carrying out life activities so that we don't get trapped in a static life with meaningless activities. Today's webinar has the right topic for us to discuss as a form of our concern for the world of education, which is currently affected by the condition of the COVID-19 pandemic. I conclude this speech by quoting Albert Einstein's statement, "Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value." I hope the webinar we are holding today will not only share success, but also share the glory. I wish you all the best of luck, success, and glory. Akhirul kalam, uridu an ukhbira an nasihatun min Ibnu Sina. Al-wahmu nisfudda, al-itmanu nisfuddawa, as-sabru awwalu khutwati syifa. Kekhawatiran itu adalah separuh dari penyakit. Ketenangan adalah sebagian dari obat. Dan kesabaran adalah jalan untuk kita menuju kepada sehat. Thanks for all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Mr. Firdaus. Our next agenda, I'm honored to invite President of Teflin. Allow me to welcome Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD, for opening this seminar.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Wardah Hanafi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudhillalah wa may yudlilhu fala hadiyalah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarika lah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh amma ba'du. Honorable Acting Rector of IAIN Pontianak, who is represented by the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, Bapak Dr. Firdaus Ahmad M.Hum. Selamat siang, Bapak. Honorable Dean of Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan of IAIN Pontianak, Bapak Dr. Ali Hashmi. Selamat siang, Bapak Ali Hashmi. Honorable Regional Coordinator of West Kalimantan Teflin, Bapak Dr. Ihsanuddin. Distinguished speakers and presenter, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First and foremost, on behalf of the National Executive Board of Teflin, I would like to welcome you all to the virtual seminar organized by Regional Coordinator of West Kalimantan Teflin in collaboration with IAIN Pontianak. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. Secondly, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Regional Coordinator of West Kalimantan Teflin, Bapak Dr. Ihsanuddin, and the Acting Rector of IAIN Pontianak, Ibu Dr. Mistah, who is represented by Bapak Dr. Firdaus Ahmad M.Hum, for hosting this conference. In addition, I also wish to convey my gratitude to the committee of the webinar for their hard work that has enabled the success of this online seminar. It is reflected from the number of participants this afternoon that reaches 252, Bapak WR1. Ya. Alhamdulillah. The theme of this webinar is the direction of language teaching during and post-pandemic, contribution on research and pedagogy. I think the theme is quite relevant to the current situation. As we are all aware, the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia is showing no sign of coming to an end. Even in some areas, the virus is still continuing to spread at an even higher rate than before. This phenomena will, of course, affect the policies in all areas of life, including the field of education, especially English language teaching. One of the policies we are currently experiencing is the change in learning mode from offline in the campus to online in our own homes due to considerations of health and safety. On the other hand, this pandemic phenomenon is giving us the energy and opportunity to think of new creative ways to ensure that learning can continue to take place effectively. So I feel sure that all the speakers in this webinar will be able to address the issue. Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, this conference would not have become a reality without the wholehearted support of many parties. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my appreciation to all the speakers for their willingness to share their expertise, including Professor Jayakaran Mukundan from Malaysia, Dr. Ihsanuddin from Indonesia, Dr. Firdaus Ahmad from Indonesia, Ibu Endang Susilowati PhD from Indonesia, Bapak Ures Salam PhD from Indonesia, Associate Professor Pratya bin Matni PhD from Thailand, Sylvia Ashton MA from UK, Dr. Fatimah Rehan from Pakistan, Ms. Farhan Hassan from Pakistan, Ms. Nadra Huma Quraishi from Pakistan, Ms. Huma Rauf from Pakistan, and Professor Dr. Nasrin Hussain from Pakistan. I would like to offer a special word of thanks to the sponsor of this academic event, including Program Studi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris IAIN Pontianak, Program Studi Magister Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Universitas Tanjung Pura, Program Studi S1 Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Universitas Tanjung Pura, Muhammadiyah University Center for Language Learning, UM Pontianak, and UPT Bahasa Politeknik Negeri Pontianak. Last but not least, allow me to express my highest appreciation to all the participants who are taking part in this webinar. I hope you all enjoy the seminar. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I declare that this webinar is officially open. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the opening ceremony. We would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to our distinguished presenters and to all of you, the participants. Finally, the organizing committee, this webinar, deliver apology for any inconvenience, and we hope to meet you again in next agenda. Stay with us. The seminar will shortly after this. Have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ibu Dr. Istiqomah will lead the first presentation by Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, good morning, or maybe good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Istiqamah, who will be the moderator for these sessions. For you who have never heard or met him before or missed the opening ceremony, may I introduce again the president of Teflin and will be the presenter or speaker for these sessions, Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto. It is an honor to have you here, Prof.
Thank you, Ibu.
Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto will discuss creativity in language teaching, lesson from the pandemic. Dear Professor, you have about 45 minutes, both for presentation and also for question and answer. Please welcome Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Istiqomah. Let me share my presentation.
Excuse me, Prof. Excuse me, Prof.
Professor Joko,
Yes.
the rector will say something to you.
Oke, silakan Bapak. Moga silakan.
Apologize, I leave first because I have other agenda.
Oke, thank you for joining, Bapak Firdaus Ahmad. Oke, good
Bang
luck.
Ihsan, terima kasih Bang Ihsan.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik, Ibu Istiqomah, Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, also the speaker and presenter. First of all, before I proceed further, I would like to convey my thanks to the committee for the invitations. Indeed, I'm honored to be here with you, sharing my experience and knowledge about English education. And in this opportunity, I would like to presents my topic entitled Creativity in Language Teaching, Lesson from Pandemic. I hope you can see my PowerPoint. Kelihatan Bu Istiqomah?
Yes, yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Well, I prepare around 35 slides. I hope I could accomplish my presentation in a given time, Bu Istiqomah. It's about 30 minutes, and then the rest of the times will be devoted for question and answer session. Okay, this is my presentation outline, introduction, meaning of creativity, importance of creativity, forms of creativity, implication, and closing. Okay. I start from the concept of teaching. Teaching is at least you can see four components of teaching. Number one is showing or helping someone to learn how to do something. So teaching is helping someone to do something. So number one. Number two, giving instruction. Number three, guiding in the study of something, providing with knowledge, causing to know or understand. So there are some activities under the term teaching. It is closely related to what Richard and Roger state, that teacher's role include facilitating the communication process and acting as an independent participant within the learning teaching group, and then an organizer of resources, and then as a resource himself, and then as a guide within the classroom, and then the last is researcher and learner. So the concept of teaching proposed by Brown is relevant to the teacher roles started by Richard and Roger. Bapak dan Ibu, the next is the complexity of teaching context. Yeah. Teaching does not take place inside a sterile space, but in complex situation. Yeah. Complex here refers to the fact that teaching is formed or constructed by the interrelation among a number of aspects, such as political, social, economic, and geographical aspect. And then the school, teacher, the student, and so on. And different contexts require certain attitudes and treatment. I show you the picture showing the micro system of ELT put in a wider context. Yeah, so there is micro system, there is meso context, and micro context. Yeah, what you can see in the screen is the microsystem of ELT, consisting of at least 3 stages here: planning, implementation, and development, where planning includes curriculum, syllabus, and lesson plan. Implementation cover teachers, students, teaching materials, learning facilities, learning process, and then there is assessment and reflection. And in the bottom of the diagram, there is learning program evaluation. So, Bapak dan Ibu, the success and the failure of teaching and learning depends not only on one single factor, but depends on the interrelated factors. Yeah, we cannot rely on only one or some factors, but we have to cover all the factors here. And it is still influenced by the meso factors, like the policy of the headmaster, for example, the support from the committee, the policy from the government, and so on. Okay, that's clear. Okay, this is the example of the factor which affect the success and the failure of teaching and learning activity. Please compare this to this, for example. So there are two different picture, which of course affect teaching and learning activity. And what we are experiencing today is COVID-19 pandemic, which forces us to take steps, for example, from offline learning to online learning. So in this case, we as teachers are required to be creative. As I told you before, that the context of teaching and learning is complex and diverse. We cannot predict what happens in the classroom. We cannot predict what happens then. For example, COVID-19 pandemic struck us very suddenly, that we have to take the appropriate policy. And for the sake of our safety and healthy, we have to learn from our own home, online like this webinar. Okay, what is meant by creativity, Bapak and Ibu? Creativity is you see from here there are at least 4 components. Number 1 is being able to solve problem in original and valuable ways that are relevant to goals. Number 2, seeing new meaning and relationship in things and making connection. Number 3, having original and imaginative thought and ideas about something, and using the imagination and past experience to create new learning possibilities. And so there are 4 components of creativity. So creative teachers are teachers who have teaching competence, underline phrase, creative teachers, that enable the teachers to create instructional strategies in novel and useful ways. Please pay close attention to the first novel and useful ways. So creative should be connected to the usefulness of things, that enhance attention and engagement. Therefore, making the learning experience more interesting and meaningful. So the target of creativity is interesting and meaningful teaching and learning. Not only interesting, Bapak dan Ibu, but also meaningful. Meaningful in this context refers to meaningfulness in this context refers to what you call whether the lesson is connected to the real life of the students. So there is what we call pedagogical activity, the activity in the classroom, and the real life real life activities. Meaningful here refers to is closely connected to the real life needs. The next, Bapak dan Ibu, creativity can be viewed as a product and a process. As a product, or when viewed as a product, the focus might be on a particular class, a task or activity in a book, or a piece of student writing. Then and the feature that give it a creative dimensions. So it is the product. But when viewed as a process, the focus is on the thinking process and decision that a person makes use of in producing something that we would describe as creative. Okay, there are 6 principles of creativity in language teaching, Bapak dan Ibu. Number 1 is creativity is central to successful teaching and learning. Yeah. Creativity is not only an optional and a decorative component to make teaching learning activity more interesting. Once again, because creativity is not a matter of the interesting, but also useful. Yeah. Number 2, creativity includes not only using and producing creativity texts, but also using language in creative ways to solve problems, to establish or maintain relationships, and to get people to act, think, and feel in certain ways. Number 3, creativity is social and collaboration. Yeah, for example, in a dialogue, yeah, what we say depends on what other people have said before. And what we say also determines what they can say after us. So a dialogue is the example of creativity in our daily activities, because we never predict what other people say, yeah, because it depends on what we say, and vice versa. Number 4, creativity is a matter of finding our way around constraint and limitation placed on us by the discourse within which we operate. Once again, creativity usually arises from the problem, the constraint, and the limitation. Yeah? So the constraint forces us to be creative. Number 5, creative language use and creative language teaching are often a matter of refashioning, recontextualizing, and building upon the words and ideas of others. In this case, creativity does not necessarily mean that we have to invent or create the new thing. Yeah? But we can just fashioning, recontextualizing, yeah, and what do you call reframing, yeah, reframing the existing things. Yeah. Once again, creativity does not necessarily mean creating the new thing or inventing the new things. Number 6, or the last points, is the real power of creativity is its potential to fundamentally transform what we are doing when we are teaching language. Okay, Bapak, Ibu, the next is creativity in the planning phase. In a planning phase of teaching, teachers' creativity might be in the form of at least 3, Bapak sekalian: choosing relevant goals and teaching resources. Number 2, analyzing teaching material in order to identify the teaching potential and making decisions related to timing, grouping, sequencing, and assessment. Why, Bapak Ibu? Because the nature of curriculum is like this. Yeah? Curriculum is not only a set of documents, rather it is a dynamic system which can be conceptualized as 3 interrelated processes, that is planning, enacting, and evaluating. Yeah, Crave states that these processes create a system that is at once stable, rooted in what has gone before, then evolving, yeah, from stable, then evolving as it responds to change, responds to context, responds to feedback, yeah, then to new ideas and to the people involved. Yeah. In other words, that curriculum can be viewed as a product, as a document, but curriculum is also viewed as a process, as enacted curriculum. Then, what about creativity in teaching process? Ladies and gentlemen, during the teaching process, teachers may adapt their plans in response to feedback from learners and even contexts, which are very diverse. In making decisions of this kind, teachers draw on their subject matter knowledge and their personal theories and principles, as well as the practical knowledge development from their teaching experience. The practices of creative teaching include at least 9 points. Yeah, the first is that the teacher is not committed to a single approach or method. Yeah. When we teach, we employ not only one approach or one method, yeah, because we never predict what happens in the classroom. So sometimes we have to make use of more than one approach or method. Yeah. I hope you are familiar with what the terms the post method era. Yeah. Number two, the teacher makes use of a wide range of teaching strategies and techniques. Yeah, usually under design, yeah, we have some techniques. It depends on whose idea it is, whether it is Anthony, 1963, or Richard and Roger in 2014, because both of the expert have different view of the term method in this case. Yeah. Number three, the teacher draws on academic and pedagogical knowledge to support creative practice. In other words, creativity should be based on academic and pedagogical knowledge, not on personal interests. Number four, the teacher uses activities that have creative dimensions. And then number five, the teacher seeks to achieve an individual style. I think you are familiar with PPK, personal practical knowledge, that provide teachers with the autonomy to create their own approach, method, and style. Yeah, it was quite different from the past, who what they call that the teacher viewed as the practitioner, who are dictated by the expert, yeah, who are expert in creating the method and approach. Yeah. Number six, the teacher is willing to take risks. Yeah. I think creativity is connected to risk taking in this case. Yeah. Number seven, the teacher adjusts and modifies her teaching during lesson. Once again, because teaching contact is never predictable. So anytime we have to adjust our teaching strategy to the given context. And then number eight, the teacher looks for new ways of doing things. And the last, the teacher makes use of technology. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some examples of questions requiring creativity. And I take it from Richard and Roger. For example, how can I use a communicative approach in a class of 40 students? Because usually communicative approach is applied in small class, yeah, having not more than 20 students. But in our context, usually our class has around 30 or more. Yeah? So it is a challenge for the teacher to apply a kind of approach in a bigger class. Number two, how can I use cooperative language learning in an exam-driven curriculum? We know that most teachers are required what do you call are forced. Yeah, my term are forced to make the students pass the examination. So in this case, there is a paradox. In the one hand, the teacher are required to use creative language strategies like cooperative language teaching, but on the other hand, they are supposed to what they call to make the students pass the examination. Number three, what principle from the Sun way can I use teaching speaking, and so on. So there are still many questions we have to mention. Right, Bapak Ibu, there is a writer, yeah, Sale 2015, yeah, who proposes the ship of creative teachers. The ship here stands for the use of stories, humor, activities, presentation style, and example, yeah, to indicate the creativity in language learning. Yeah, stories. We know that a number of best speakers in any field usually use stories in their presentation, and I think some of us also use stories in our presentation and our teaching. Yeah. One of the reasons is that learners may forget the factual content of our lesson, but the stories that are embedded with meaning, especially when it connects to their own experience, needs, and interests, are committed easily to memory and provide a key anchor for recall and enhance positive belief. Yeah. The students may forget the lesson, but I think the learners never forget our stories. So the choice of stories is important. Yeah. At least we have to select the useful and meaningful stories. Yeah. Okay. What is important in telling stories? Yeah. Number one, a clearly and lively presentation style, timing and emphasis of key learning points in the story, relevant to the specific topics to be learned and or to the process of learning. Involve students where possible in terms of eye contact, yeah, posture and gesture, and throughout and analyze the relevance of the story topic if necessary. Yeah. So once again, when we tell a story, we have to be careful in at least we have to take account these items. Number two, humor. Yeah, humor creates pleasure, reduces pain, and is typically novel in some way. Perhaps the most critical aspect of humor for learning is its impact on attention and perception in the learning situation. So the first thing is attention. By having humor, yeah, we hope that the students pay close attention to our lesson. And furthermore, we also expect that the students will get involved in our learning activity. Yeah, and there are in fact number types of humor. There are jokes, riddle, anecdotes, stories, cartoons, yeah, criticism, impersonation, humorous video clips, and so on. So I think there are some other types of humor, yeah. And in fact, you can find this kind of humor in our virtual resources. The next, I think we repeat again that humor is important, yeah, to get good attention from the students, and then creates and maintain a positive psychological climate and build support, and then creatively illustrate a fact, concept, or principle with high impact, and then icebreaker for new classes. The next is activities. Activities can take numerous forms such as specific learning tasks, quizzes, competition, project, visit, forum, simulation, and so on. There are some other activities which reflects the creativity. Yeah. So what is important in designing and managing activities to be creative sekalian? Number one, that activities should be relevant to the learning goals and objectives. Number two, tasks are real-life focused, challenging but achievable based on student prior knowledge and skill, and in the context of resource and time allocation. Number three, resource support is available for successful completion. Clear and sufficient notes of guidance are provided for students in terms of task requirement and assessment component and criteria. The overall activity provides opportunity for differentiated learning, and good facilitation skills are maintained throughout the durations of the activity. The next is presentation style. Ladies and gentlemen, the importance of good presentation skill is obvious in the case of teaching, and I propose here the antithesis of the good presentation, which includes unclear voice, disorganized sentences, monotonous tone, dull body language, irritating mannerism, etc. All these aspects, will contribute to a quick loss of attention. It results in boredom, disengagement, and frustration. So, Bapak Ibu, when we design or we make presentation, we have to pay close attention to the clarity of topic, the clarity of language, the clarity of idea, and so on. And then pace and tone of voice, and then calibrations of body language. Among others, eye contact. So we have to have eye contact with our students, gesture, posture, appropriate use of smile, to voice presentation. So body language and voice presentation. And then number 4, appropriate variations and ability to creatively use stories, humor, and example. That are appropriate to the given groups of learners. The last is example. When we teach, we usually give example. The problem is what makes an example a good example. Not only any example, but we have to have a good example. An example should be relevant to a key concept, principle, skill being taught. And the student can relate to the example through their own experiences, not though, but through their own experiences. And the last is it has a strong real life current impact. Okay, Bapak Ibu, what is the implications of what I have presented? In order to think and act creatively in teaching activities, a teacher must at least have a wide repertoire of teaching strategies. So it implies that the teacher should understand and master a number of the measure of approach and method, such as what is what we call recommended by Diane Freeman, Richard and Roger, like audiolingual method, text-based language teaching, and then cumulative language teaching, and so on. There are many, there are many. Because without understanding of those approaches and methods, it's very hard for us to be creative. Because these strategies, these approaches, this method provide a rich source that can be made use of at any time in accordance with the needs and goals of the teaching. As what they call in the end of my presentation, I would like to remind you of the term post-method era, Bapak Ibu. We refer back to what they call the principle that the context of teaching is complex, diverse, and unpredictable. So we have to be creative in anticipating those contexts. Okay, I think this is the end of my presentation, Ibu Istiqomah. I take 33 minutes. Yeah, I think we still 10 minutes for the question and answer session. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My appreciations, Prof. It's a very inspiring presentations, and I think some of the participants would like to have questions on your topic or on your title. From the chat rooms, we have 2 questions, or we chose already 2 questions, Prof.
Yes.
And I already posted the question in your private chat room, but I would like also to, maybe you would like to see your private chat room, but I'm going to read the question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, there are 2 questions that we chose. The first one is from Heru. He's one of the teacher, I think, in one of the Islamic senior high school in Pontianak. And his question is, I read the question for you.
Okay, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I have a question for Prof. Joko. If I am not wrong, you stated that creativity is related to the product, while the process is about thinking. My question is that how do we know that the thinking is also representing the creativity? How can we make the assessment of the process, especially when it is in online learning process? So,
okay, I answer first, Bu Silkoma ya. Okay.
Yeah.
You are right. Ibu siapa tadi, Ibu?
Pak Heru.
Pak Heru. Okay. Yeah. You are right, Pak Heru. That creativity can be viewed as a product and as a process. Yeah. As a product, creativity could be viewed in the form of product, like textbook, like text, like question, like what they call the picture. So I think you can differentiate between creative textbook and non-creative textbook. Yeah. For example, now we are in the era of multimodal text. For example, in the past, for example, reading consists of only text. Yeah. But now reading consists of text together with, for example, picture, illustration, and so on, to multimodal text. So multimodal text can be regarded as the creative form of text. Is the example. Yeah, and of course there are still other example. What about process? Yeah, creativity as process refers to the process of thinking which produces creative product. Yeah. So thinking here is connected to the process of thinking, the process of making decision. Yeah, but the result of thinking is in the form of a product. Okay. And how could we assess that our thinking is creative? Yeah, I think it is reflected in what you call the creative product. Yeah, I'm sure, I'm fully confident, Pak Heru, that the creative text writer will produce creative multimodal text, rather than only just text, just a text like what we have in the past. Yeah, I think this is my answer to Pak Heru, Ibu Istiqomah. Okay.
Okay. Would you like him to give a feedback, or?
I think another question, Bu.
Okay.
Okay, another question.
Okay, we have the second question, Prof. It is from a woman. Her name is Endang, and I posted already in your chat room.
Could you just read the chat?
It says that if I'm not wrong, you stated that creativity is related to the product, while the process is about thinking.
The same as Pak Heru.
Oh yeah, the same as Pak Heru.
Okay.
Yeah, is it the same? The other one is how should teacher conduct learning process creatively if most students can only access the learning process through text and audio, not visual?
Okay. Well, it is connected to what I call instructional design. Bu Endang, siapa tadi yang dibantu ya?
Yeah.
So the keyword is instructional design. Yeah. I think creative teacher will create interesting teaching material, yeah, and then employ creative teaching strategies, yeah, depending on the context, yeah. For example, if in the afternoon most of the students are sleepy, for example, we have to be creative how to make students awake. For example, by having stories, by having Zoomer, by having meaningful activities, yeah, and some other, I think, yeah. So the keyword in this case that the teachers should have a range of repertoire, yeah, in language approach, teaching strategies, teaching techniques, yeah. So the shift of the creativity, yeah, shifts then for what it goes stories, yeah, Zoomer, activity, and then presentation style and example, yeah. So make use of those dimensions, yeah, to make your students awake, quote unquote, during the lesson, yeah. Don't let them get asleep in the classroom or get bored, yeah, during the lesson, yeah. So in this case, yeah, I remember what Kumarato Fellow asserted that to understand, yeah, to understand the situation in the classroom, we have to have what he calls the comprehensive understanding of the class, what happens in the classroom, yeah. It is connected to what we call reflective practice, Mr. Koma, yeah. So I think the creative teachers should have a reflective practice competence, yeah, starting from familiarizing the situation in the classroom, yeah, the awareness of what happens in the classroom, identifying the problem in the classroom, and then proposing the solution, and then trying out the solution, and then we are waiting what happens then after that. Yeah, is what we call creative, reflective practice of teaching. Okay, I think that's my answer, Bu Istiqomah.
There are some more questions, Prof.
Okay, one more question, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will choose a short one.
Okay.
And this is from Leili. She asked for how can we assess that our teaching process is proven as a creative teaching?
Okay. Well, creative is relative, Bu Istiqomah and Bu Leli, creative. Yeah. Probably we will find some activity creative, but some other are not creative. Yeah. That's why there should be criteria. Yeah. The criteria of creativity, as I told before, yeah. Number one is that our lesson should be interesting. That's number one. Yeah. And number two, our lesson is useful. Yeah. The implications of interesting lesson is that, yeah, there should be a full engagement of the students in our lesson. Yeah. The students are engaged. Yeah. Are engaged in our lesson. Yeah. So there is no students who are getting sleepy in the classroom because they are actively engaged in our classroom. Yeah, it is the indicator that our lesson is interesting. And number two, usefulness. Yeah, usefulness. Yeah, what we teach, yeah, should be something useful for their daily life. Yeah, That's why I usually insist that the students, especially pre-school students, yeah, when they are having teaching practice, yeah, they should what they call explain the benefit of the lesson, yeah, not only topic, not only the objective, but also the benefit of the lesson, because it is connected to the meaningful principle of language teaching. Yeah, what we give in our classroom should be useful, and it's related to whether our lesson is connected to their needs in their real life. Yeah. So once again, when we teach, we have to explain the benefit of a lesson, so that the teacher, the students will actively engage in our lesson. Yeah. It is a matter of what you call a need. Yeah. When we teach something useful for the student, I'm sure that they will pay close attention to our lesson. It is the parameter or the criteria of creativity. Yeah. The first is interesting, yeah, reflected in the engagement of the student in the classroom, and number two is usefulness. Because if the lesson is only interesting, I'm afraid that it will be like jokes, like lawak, ya, tanda petik lawak. That is interesting but not useful. Yeah, so we have to combine the two, characteristic of a lesson. Yeah, interesting, useful, fruitful, yeah, meaningful, and so on. This is Bu Istiqomah.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
I think the time is also over for your part.
Right.
So we will go to the next part. But I myself and I think all participants would like to say thank you, a big appreciation for you for sharing your knowledge to us.
Thank you,
and
Ibu Istiqomah.
hope to see you again in the future, Prof.
Okay, we hope, inshallah.
Okay, and maybe we give a big hand to our professor, Prof. Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, and there will be the next presenters from United Kingdom, Judy and Sylvia, and the moderator will be Ibu Dr. Nurmala. I hope he's ready now. She's ready now. Can I have Ibu Dr. Nurmala? And the other committee, can you help me to identify Ibu Dr. Nurmala?
Hello, the IET, I think can play some videos, short videos, while waiting for the presentation.
Hello, Iksan. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Yeah, are you ready?
Yes, I'm here. And Sylvia's here somewhere.
Good morning.
All right. Finally, I'm on. Okay.
Hello.
I have been unmute for quite some time. I say hello. Please help me.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Shall we start now?
Yes, we're very happy to start if you're ready for our presentation.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Give me a second, please. Okay.
While you're doing that, we'll just say hello and good morning, and we're delighted to be here.
Yes, that's actually
Hey,
good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for Judy Kears, I guess. Yeah, still very morning in there, and good evening for some of us, maybe. Okay, and I would like once again to welcome all the participants. It is such a great moment to keep learning during this COVID-19. Our topic for the second topic is unlocking creativity and imagination in ELT during and post-pandemic. So the presenters, as you have seen in the flyer, they are in a team of Judy Kears and, am I saying the correct? Kears?
Well, it's Kirsch, yes.
Kirsch,
English
okay, thank you.
pronunciation is Kirsch, yeah.
All right, okay, Judy Kears, okay. My apology for
No,
the first
not
try. And Sylvia Ashton, okay. So now, shall we start, and can I give you the time for your presentation?
Yeah.
Well, hello, everybody.
Okay. Sylvia, right, we'll introduce ourselves, yes. Okay, so my name's Judy Kirsch, as you know, and I've been teaching ESOL, and I've taught EFL and teacher training, mainly teacher training and materials writing in the last 20 years. So my main interest at the moment is developing materials and resources for trainers and for teachers in the UK for teaching literacies to ESOL learners. Many learners in the UK don't have very much literacy, reading and writing when they first arrive. So we're working on materials to help them develop those basic skills. But I also have a lot of interest in other aspects of teacher training. I was a teacher trainer and external examiner at Sheffield Hallam University, which is where I first met Sylvia, which was many years ago, probably about 15 years ago now. I'll hand over to Sylvia.
Yes, it was a very long time ago. Yeah, we're delighted to be here, as I said. My name's Sylvia Ashton. I used to work at Sheffield Hallam University. More recently, I've been working with a charity in Sheffield in the north of England, looking at teaching English to people who have very little technology. And Judy and I have collaborated on some webinars during the last few months of lockdown in England, all about that. One of the things that made me very pleased to be here was that I spent some time in Pakistan a long time ago. I was teaching a lot of Pakistani people in England. So it's lovely to see those people who are here from there. It takes me back. We're very pleased as well to see that people are using the chat. Because there are two of us, we'll try and answer as many questions as we can in the chat or while we're speaking. And we'll be with you for an hour. And so I'm handing over to Judy. She's going to tell you a little bit about the organisation we both work for at the moment.
Yes, and I'm going to share the screen because we have a PowerPoint presentation which has quite a lot of links, and we will make that available to everybody afterwards. Perhaps you can put it on your website that people can access the presentation if they'd like to. So I'm going to share the screen. Right. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. Good. Right. So yes, the organisation that Sylvia and I both are very involved in on a voluntary basis is NATECLA, which is the National Association for Teaching English and Community Languages to Adults. But there's very little community language teaching going on for one reason or another. We don't really know why. But so our main focus really is on supporting ESOL teachers and ESOL practitioners in the UK, and that's the whole of the UK. We're the only organisation that works for ESOL, and we liaise also with people at government level to try and influence policy to get more funding for ESOL, because we think it's so crucial that everyone living in the UK can speak, read and write English. And so we offer lots of support for members. We have events and webinars. As we say, we've gone over to doing webinars in the last few months, which Sylvia and I have been very involved in. And we have regular updates, local branch meetings, regional events. And the other thing I would like to tell you about is our journal. We have a journal called Language Issues, which does have more of an international focus. And we've had this journal for since the organisation was created about 30 or 40 years ago. And there's some very, very good articles in there. It's a peer-reviewed journal, and so it has a mixture of research, theory, ideas on different aspects of teaching and learning, all different things, and then some practical tips as well. So that is available to anybody who would like to register for it. And of course, our website is open to anyone who would like to come and look at the website. We have a section on resources as well. Yeah, I think that's about it. Is there anything I've forgotten, Sylvia?
No, I think that was, did you mention that we're on Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter as well.
Yeah.
So we try to basically offer support for ESOL teachers who, like everywhere in the world, ESOL teachers are EFL teachers, English language teachers, EAP, whatever your aspect of English, you're often working, for your own institution, but it's really good to get together with others like this kind of opportunity to share ideas, share practice. That's how you should grow and develop. I did a lot of work a few years ago for the British Council on one of their websites, writing resources to do with professional development as well. And those resources are still although some of them are no longer accessible for various reasons. But yeah, again, it's all about bringing teachers together and professionals sharing their expertise. So we'll move on to the topic of today's session, which is creativity and imagination, using imagination. And we're going to think about how to help students develop their English language skills through being creative. We're going to look at just a few things. So there's a really interesting website, some of you may know it, a lyrics website. So a lot of young people like songs, they like music. We'll look at how that can help. And Google Earth as well is a great source for language practice and virtual trips. We'll look at how you maybe could create a class newspaper. And there are, as you already know, lots and lots of games and apps out there for practicing English. But we'll look at a few that you may be new to you. And the point of all of these things we're looking at today, they can be used online if you're teaching remotely, or you can use them in class if you've got the IT facilities. Okay, so yes, I'll just mention the next point and then hand over to Sylvia. So when we think about creativity, we think about why it's important, but using language is being creative. You're making words, you're putting your thoughts into words as you're speaking, and helping somebody to do that in another language obviously is really, really important too. So when you ask students to do a language activity just for its own sake, practicing the grammar, the present perfect or prepositions, there's no real content or purpose, they may well get demotivated. And I think I caught some of the previous speaker talking about the importance of motivation and engagement. But if they're challenged and inspired and actually motivated and interested in something, that's going to be more meaningful, and they'll have more desire to use the language. And research has shown they can produce much higher level language if they're really motivated to speak and to use it. So as I said, we're going to look in this session at some practical ways of promoting creativity online and in class, and not giving our students opportunities to choose their own options, use their imagination and get involved. Okay, so I'll just
add something to that, if I may, Judy, before you start to talk about the lyrics website.
Yes.
One of the other things I wanted to say is that Judy and I have worked, as she said, for many years in teacher education. So hopefully, not only will you be able to look at the slides, but also we hope that we're modelling the way that you can work with your students. And I must say, I love working with Judy, and we swap quite a lot, don't we, Judy, in between? So that works quite well. Some of the things that we've learned when working online, I found particularly useful. And one of the things that Judy taught me was to keep it simple. So as we go through this presentation, we would suggest that you find one thing that your students are happy with, one platform, one digital means of communicating, and you don't have to make it complicated. It works much better if you keep it simple. And we've also discovered that things take a lot longer when you're working online. So we're interested in promoting real communication, and Judy's come up with so many amazingly creative ideas. So I think we'll kick off with the lyrics website. And as Judy said, a lot of this follows really nicely from the previous presentation. It fits really well because these are some ways in which you can do all the things that the previous speaker was talking about. We've got a raised hand, which I'll deal with while you talk about the lyrics website.
Okay, does that person want to unmute?
It's just about the slides, yeah. We will send all the slides. In fact, I think your committee already has all the slides. So we're very happy for them to put them on a website, are we not, Judy?
Yes, yes. And then the link, most of the link, the links are there, they're hyperlinks, so you can just click on it and go to the websites and have a look. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. Right, so I don't know, people could indicate if they've heard of this website. I suppose people could, virtually put your hand up if you've heard of this website. That would be quite useful to know. Could you put up your hand? Have you got the little blue hand you can put up in the chat box? You should find something in the chat box which has a raised hand. If people know how to do that, you could indicate nobody's put up their hand yet.
No, somebody did a minute ago, so somebody knows how to do it.
Okay, all right. Well, what I'm going to do is go to this this website in a minute, but basically it's a very, very simple website, very simple to get into, which I'll show you. And either you could use it in class with students, or you could send them the link to a particular song to look at. And the point here is it's for listening training, as well, because you have to listen really carefully. And I think that's a skill which is often underrated. Listening is so important. We have so many people when they arrive in the UK who have learned English to a really high standard, who say, oh, I don't understand anything, because everyone speaks so quickly, because they're not used to really listening to everyday English. So these kinds of activities, which are intensive listening really carefully for certain words, can be really good practice. So listening's really good, and the pronunciation, hearing how words are pronounced, that can help. And also vocabulary. There's obviously a lot of vocabulary, new vocabulary, often informal vocabulary in these songs, and they're all different kinds of songs. So students could choose one that they're interested in to work on themselves. So I'm going to go to the website now. Let me just, I can show this.
While you're just getting that ready, Judy, can I say we had, Owen said they've never heard of this, but I think Andy, I'm not sure where you are, Andy, but said that they thought they had heard of it before. So if anybody else has heard of it, do put it in the chat. And if you have songs that you've used with your learners, that would be really interesting to hear as well.
Right, I'm having a problem showing it. I don't know why. Okay.
It comes up, but it's not at the moment. So does anybody use songs with their learners and the lyrics? We've had another website called Lyrics Training, which Nanique, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, has put in the chat. Now, what Judy and I usually do is to save the chat, and if there are more links, we will
try again.
We'll put them in for you.
No, it's gone.
So if anybody puts any more material in the link, in the chat box, I'll save them and send them. Looked like you were nearly there, Judy.
Right. Please move
Yeah.
this. Can you see this? Right. Okay. Can you see the lyrics training website
No.
yet or not? No.
No, it's a blank at the moment. Now, I think
Okay.
that happened on our dry run, didn't it?
This is the thing with technology.
Ah, here we are. I think.
Can you see it now?
I think we have. We're going to warn you, there are lots of adverts. But yes.
Okay, can you see something that says beautiful Italian food at M&S?
We have,
Right,
yeah.
now I need to make sure you can hear the sound.
We'll know when.
Did you hear the sound?
Yes, that's working, Judy.
Okay, now this is on beginner's level. So this is what you'll see, and you can see there are words that appear at the, just underneath the video. So at this point, you have to put in the missing word. So it's not easy to hear it because it's one of those unstressed words, doesn't have a point. And again, this is really useful English point of view. And if the student doesn't hear that, you can go back and play it again.
Doesn't have a point of view, knows not where he's going.
So what you do now is you just simply type in the word in the space. So here we write A. I don't know why it's not working. I can't type it in. Let's try it again.
I think if you're not trying to share it with 270 people, this
Yeah,
will work.
maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go on to the next bit. So this is, oh, it's working now. You put in the word.
Isn't he a bit like you and me?
Quite a difficult word because they're singing on it, but the word is world. Okay, so I think you can see how this works. The word is blind. So I think you can see from this, it's quite good for all different aspects of English, you know, prepositions, verbs, sentence structure. Can you see me? This is the beginner level. So, I mean, I've just chosen this song because I thought, you know, it's one, the Beatles is something that people would be familiar with. But there are many, many, many songs and genres. So you can choose pop, rock, jazz, Latin soul, all different kinds. Christmas songs, for example. You could do Christmas songs. Can you still see the screen, Sylvie, when I'm changing it?
You can, and when you've finished that bit, I'll respond to some of the things in the chat, Judy.
Yeah, I'll go back to I'll stop sharing in a minute. But not only can you look at all different songs, they've got folk songs as well, opera, you've got some of you may have heard of Bob Dylan as well. Who else have we got here? Some I've never heard, a lot of these I've never heard of, but you know, a lot of young people like this sort of Snoop Dogg. I don't know most of these, I have to say, but some of them. I'm not very good on these songs, but there are lots and lots of different songs and students could practice on their own, and you can see how good it is with vocabulary, grammar, listening, pronunciation, all of these aspects. You can print off the lyrics. I'm going to stop this share and go back to the other one, the presentation.
Actually, just before you do, Judy, oh, it's okay,
yeah.
That's fine.
Yep, yep.
there was a few really interesting comments in the chat. So somebody said it wouldn't work because their students were very inactive. I would suggest you ask the students to choose the songs that they like and see if that will work. This website also allows you to write your own songs, I think.
Yeah, you can upload your own songs.
Yeah. So there are ways of working with it. Everybody loves the Beatles, which we hoped would be the case. And someone else said it wouldn't work because the connection was very poor. Now, we've done a lot of work with people who have no smartphones and no computers and so on. So I suppose one way you could do this is to write the lyrics, or if you can print them off, you could still do the same exercises, but on paper. It wouldn't be so interesting, but it would still be perhaps lyrics of songs that people were familiar with.
Yeah, I think what you can do in that case is if you print off maybe just a few lines of a song that you know that your students tell you the song that they like, you print off a few lines of it and take a photo of it. You take a photo of the words and maybe delete some of the words. Oh. And then they can watch it. Am I still? I'm getting feedback.
There's one very interesting question there, or rather comment, which says that some songs use ungrammatical lyrics. And that's quite true. But as Judy says, sometimes if you have learned English in a strictly grammatical way, it doesn't come over as fluently as it might do if you'd listened to things like these songs, which use it in a more informal way. So obviously there's a place for both, but that's a very interesting comment. I wouldn't recommend any songs in particular, because I think what you would do is choose the ones that suit your context.
Yeah.
And that are perhaps familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think for learners who are not so engaged with learning English, you know, is part of their school curriculum, they have to learn English and they're very demotivated. Things like if they like music and they like songs, this could be a way in, you know, to engage them and to bring them on board and letting them choose their own songs if they can, and if they have the technology, of course, you know, that is, but they can listen to these on their phones if they've got smartphones. Obviously you can hear music, and a lot of young people in this country anyway, you know, listen to music on their phones. So music and songs are a way to engage learners and let them, you know, use their own imagination and be creative. Okay, shall we move on, Sylvia?
Yeah, that's great. I should say again, the only disadvantage of that website, as Judy said, is you do get lots of adverts.
Yeah, but it's free to use. You just have to register. You've got different levels. You've got all on the bottom of the slide. You can see on the left, those are the lyrics. You can just click on the lyrics. It will print off the lyrics, give you the lyrics to the song, and then it's up to you how you use it.
Okay, so Judy mentioned the first missing word, I think, was world, and she's now going to take us on a trip to London, which I'll talk about. So we're now going to have a little look at using Google Earth in a creative way with learning English. So we'd like to take you to Trafalgar Square, which at the moment is very, very quiet. Because of the coronavirus, there are very few people in the middle of London. And this isn't a website designed for teaching English like the Lyrics website we've just seen. But what we have found, and we, like many teachers, we saw this demonstrated by somebody who came to one of our conferences. We found lots of ways that you could use Google Earth to encourage people to use English. So here we are in the middle of Trafalgar Square. It could be Jakarta, it could be Islamabad, it could be anywhere that you choose. Judy, I think we're going to have the same problem there. We've got a blank again.
Have you got
there
it
we
now?
are. We have, that's great, thank you. Judy is fantastic
at, I don't know about that, not really.
You really are, yeah. So you might say to your students, imagine you are standing in the middle of Trafalgar Square. What can you see? That would lead to lots of descriptive language. They could talk in the present continuous about where they are walking. They could look at what they can, they could describe what they can see. They could imagine what they could hear, and they could imagine what they might smell. Lots of use of there is, there are, lots of prepositions. So behind the man on the left, who is using his camera, you could use all sorts of language there. I think this must have been a while ago. Is this now, Judy?
No, Google Earth, it's all, it could be a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, yes, you're right. I've looked at my house on Google Earth and it had some cars that certainly weren't of today.
Yes.
But you can see all the description of all of those people standing there. I'm sure we'll see a pigeon at some stage, and the statues and the spire. So again, lots and lots of scope for igniting the imagination. We thought that people could use the chat box to ask questions about the people or the buildings, to answer each other while using this website. And one of the things which Judy suggested was that if you've got advanced students who are happy using technology, a group of them could prepare a small presentation on a place that they would like to visit and present it to the others in their group. So there's a lot of potential for people to use this if they have got access to the internet and they can look at things before your lesson. You could send them a video or a site on Google Earth. This is all in London, in England. Someone just asked where we were. So we're all still in the middle of London. Judy's more familiar with London than I am because I live in the north of England. I do go to London and my son lives there, but she lives much closer, so she may be able to tell you where she's going. But there we have Westminster. Lots and lots of potential there for using it. What do you think, Judy? Do you want to say anything else about how you could use Google Earth?
Yeah, so well, you can either use it as the basis for a lesson and prepare as a teacher, prepare a little presentation using these pictures and images, going in to see different aspects. You've got Buckingham Palace here, for example. And when you click on this symbol, you get blue lines. And when you click on the actual line itself, it then takes you to the place. So you can then see what exactly is going on in the road. So you could make a presentation about a trip to London where you would go, planning a trip, for example, and describe what you can see, the park, the statues, the roads, the people, the weather. Yeah, it's raining, as you'd expect in London. So you can use this for learners to explore, and it could be somewhere in your own country. They could prepare a little presentation and show the images from Google Earth and show a little presentation. So imagine you're walking down this street here. What would you see when you get to the end? And then you can go back to the other view, which is not going just yet.
I've got a couple of questions, if it's okay if I answer those, Judy. One is about the bandwidth required, and you're absolutely right. This requires a level of internet connection or technology that some people won't have. Again, adapt it. So you could use photographs, and there's always a way that you can use the ideas in these websites by scaling down the technology. So you could use postcards, you could use photographs. There are lots of different ways. I work with a group on my phone, and we are able to send photographs to each other of places that we've been. Someone else has asked what the name of the app is. This isn't an app, this is a website, and it's called Google Earth. And someone else has asked an interesting question, which I noticed they asked in the previous presentation, which was about the fact that you will have learners with many different approaches to learning. I don't tend to use the word learning styles anymore, because I think we need to encourage all our learners to learn in lots of different ways, not to get stuck in one style. But I do think that there are ways that you can adapt this to lots and lots of different approaches to learning. So some people might want to choose a place that they like if they're not engaged with London, for example. Some people might want to write a long description. Some people might want to record the sounds in their neighborhood. So hopefully there is a way that you can engage all the different people's learning aptitudes or style or approaches. But I think we need to encourage all our learners to learn in lots of different ways.
Yes,
Okay,
and I think with this kind of thing as well, you can say, what can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? You know, so using different senses as well. When you're standing here, for example, you know, I can see Buckingham Palace, I can see crowds of people on my left, on my right. You can use prepositions of place. So they can use quite a lot of language and creative language, descriptive language to describe what they can see. In a way, it's the same as a picture or a photo, but this is more if learners can access this, or if you can in class. I just think it's engaging because it is more active and because it's dynamic and you can move around and you can see different things. Behind me is the statue, it's the Victoria something or other, I think. It's the statue of Victoria. And down here is the Mall. And you can say, you know, you can really use this however you would use pictures, but a little bit more so because it's more dynamic. So yes, but it could be anywhere in the world. Google Earth will take you to anywhere in the world. So, you know, to your school, to your road where you live. You just simply in the search button here, you just put in where is this coming? Where is Iksan? I can't hear, obviously. Can you tell me another place? Somewhere in Pakistan or Indonesia? Shall I put Jakarta?
Yeah, or we could
Jakarta. I'll put Jakarta.
Yeah.
There we are.
While you're just, oh yes, you're in Jakarta.
It is a National Monument Park. It's in Jakarta.
Thank you.
There we are. So we can go into that and we can go in more detail.
Very good question from somebody, Judy, saying that during this pandemic, we are putting a huge amount of strain on learners and asking them to be more, I think the idea is more independent, and how does creativity fit into that? What we've found is that learners have really appreciated the creativity that teachers are putting into the work. And in a moment, after the next activity but one, I will be talking about how one teacher took their learners on a field trip which got cancelled, but they found a way to take them on a field trip. So hopefully creativity is helping. We don't want to put any more strain on people. I know this is an incredibly difficult time. So the idea is not to make learners more stressed, but to help them by being creative.
Okay, so sort of, we hope that's introduced you maybe to something new, some new ideas. If you can use Google, as I say, people can describe anywhere in the world. Imagine they're walking down the road. What can they see? What can they hear? What can they smell? You know, writing descriptions, planning, etc. Okay, we're going to stop this one now and go on to the next.
We're going to take a trip to Cambridge, I think.
Yep, on the next slide. Yes, now this is an interactive trip to Cambridge. Again, this was developed by a teacher, and you can see it's a completely prepared lesson, and it's an example of what you can do, and it's using QR codes as well. Now, it has different stages to it. It involves reading, researching. It's more like task-based learning. So again, task-based learning involves the learners working on through a particular task. There's a goal at the end of it. They need to achieve something. But you have because we have the internet, obviously, if you have access to the internet and videos, etc., it makes it more interesting. So I'm going to, again, stop this share and try and get into the actual interactive lesson.
So while you do that, Judy, another
again.
very interesting statement on the chat. So Perty has talked about the fact that they feel sad that people are relying on social media. I was just starting to type, but just while Judy gets that link up, I'll say it instead. What we have found is that people who cannot use the internet, who are very isolated, and it's very difficult for them to keep learning language because they don't have access to anything if they're stuck at home and can't use it. So we have found that digital literacy is very important in keeping up their language studies. So I think they run hand in hand. Over to Judy for her trip to Cambridge.
Can you see it? Can everyone see it? Can you see it, Sylvia? Good.
We can.
Okay, so the idea here is the learners are going to plan a 3-day trip to Cambridge. So the first thing is a reading task. There's a reading task. So they have to go to this QR code to get the actual reading task. There's a text, or they click on this and it takes them to the reading text. Let's see if that takes you to the reading text. Oh, that's not working. Right, so let's just get rid of that one. Go back to this. So there's a reading text to go with it. So the first thing is to introduce it. Wherever your trip is, there's a reading task. Find 3 things you would like to do there. Then there's a map. Find the 3 things you want to do on the map from the article on the map. Yeah, the article is a kind of a guide to Cambridge and gives you a list of, as you get with TripAdvisor, gives you the ideas of which places are the most interesting to see. So the student reads it and chooses themselves which 3 places they'd like to visit. So they have the ability to make their own choices, to choose. And by giving students choice, you'll again being able to engage them more and hopefully increase motivation. So then once they've found the 3 places that they'd like to go to, they then have to find them on the map. So of course, this is a bit more than just English, isn't it? It's map reading skills as well. So finding them on a map. Then after they've done that, they get a video to watch, just a little video, a couple of minutes of somebody walking around Cambridge talking about places to see. So that's quite interesting. And somebody was talking about learning styles, so it gives you another view. So you've done reading, you've had a map, and now you're going to watch and hear people walking around the place. So that's quite a nice, interesting activity. And are any of the places you've selected in the video? So that's a good one. They have to watch and see if the 3 places they've identified are mentioned in the video. And then another research task. You're going to go there in 3 days' time. What's the weather? Look at the weather forecast. Again, that's really good for English practice, looking at weather forecasts and the vocabulary and temperatures, etc. Add that to your notes. And then finally, your writing task, write your plan for your 3-day trip to Cambridge, or it could be a 1-day trip, and find an image of each place and add it to your texts. So that's your final product. That's the writing, the piece of writing you produce. So that's the kind of neat little lesson. So if you're working remotely and you have got learners that have got computers and good connections, you could send them that kind of thing to do. Or if you're in class and you have computers, you could use that in a session as well. So that's, where's it gone?
Yeah, so while you're just going back to the slides, I have just seen something about emotional geography in online learning. I wonder, Enjang, if you could put that in again and explain whether you're talking about supporting people emotionally. I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but if you'd like to ask that question again, if that is what you mean, if you're talking about supporting people emotionally, I don't want to answer the wrong question. So the next slide that Judy is going to bring up is the one that I was talking about earlier, which was a situation where in a local college, the learners were going on a trip to London, in fact, and of course it was cancelled. So just to go back to Perti's comment, this is really all about working with people who are not able to leave their homes, or certainly who are not able to come to college, and definitely not able to go to London because of the pandemic. So what this tutor did was to create what she called a virtual field trip. And Judy and I would really recommend her website. She's called the her website is called the Practical ESOL Tutor. ESOL is English for Speakers of Other Languages, which is the term used in England for this, for English language teaching. And she has loads of really interesting ideas. She's very technically competent. So what she did was to offer them some slides in which they could click on different parts of the picture, and they could do a variety of different things. So a little bit like Google Earth, if they clicked in one place, it might give them an opportunity to fill in a comprehension. If they clicked in another place, it might give them a video of the Beefeaters at the Tower of London. And she also created avatars, essentially, of herself. And the way in which she did that is detailed on this slide. I think we'll just stick with the slide, Judy. Are you trying to go into the...
No, I'm not. I'm looking at the messages. Yeah, there are obviously things about the technology.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's bringing a black blob up when you're sharing. So if you come off
the chat box, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
sorry.
on your...
Yes. Yeah,
no, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll get rid of it.
Yeah, so working through that slide, if you want to, and I would say, would you agree, Judy, this is for someone who's very technically competent, but some of your learners you will find, it's amazing what they can do.
Yes. I mean, somebody was saying about their learners being really good on social media, but not really, and I think that's the thing, to try, they have got those technical skills to try and encourage them. Yes, it could be extra, these things could be extracurricular activities, if they've got these skills, then encourage them to do different things, and for homework or outside of lessons to try and do some of these things.
Yes, and actually Patrick has just said that. It is true that a lot of these things learners can do. And I can remember working with a group of learners when I had a student working with a particular group of learners, and they appeared to be very, very basic in their English. But I then discovered they were learning online outside of class, and actually they made huge improvements, rather in spite of the person I was observing, instead of because of them, because they were doing a lot of learning online. So yes, okay. I think we ought to move on to
this is I mean, this creating a virtual field trip is really more suitable for teachers who are really technical or tech savvy, really good at with IT, because unless you've got really highly expert learners, they're not going to be able to do this sort of thing. Let's go on to the next.
Judy, I'm just going to say, somebody said it sounds like a scavenger hunt, and actually that's exactly what. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
This is another idea, a very nice idea that a few organisations did in the UK during lockdown, because they couldn't obviously teach students face to face. they sort of remotely created this ESOL newspaper or a class newspaper. You may already do something like this, but again, asking each learner to contribute something, a paragraph, take a photo of something in their home or around their local area and just write a description or any news in their area, and then sending it all to the teacher if the teacher can collate it, or ask groups, put students into small groups to communicate via social media. And using WhatsApp, for example, if you use WhatsApp or Skype or something, and they can communicate and create a little newspaper themselves. It's something where they can write about something they're interested in. They can use very simple language, use Google Docs to communicate, to share documents if they're online. And you could make a weekly or monthly English newspaper, local news in English. Again, it's just an idea for encouraging creativity. And you may have learners that really like doing this kind of thing and are happy to sort of take responsibility for a small group, so they could work in small groups. So just a photo and a little bit of information, captions to do it. Again, it's more about engaging them, even if it's just a photo, 2 or 3 lines about something in their house, something around what they're doing, an activity. So again, it's a suggestion. And the resulting newspaper or the resulting text can then be used for comprehension work, for looking at some of the grammar, for correction, etc. Digital skills as well. So we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I'm just answering Endang, who asked a very good question about how do you get students to be creative. And I agree, if students are used to being much more passive, then it does take a little bit of time. I've put some ideas in the chat, Endang. So these are ideas about using WhatsApp, which I don't know, to be honest, whether this is a very familiar app in your countries. In England, it's certainly the one which people use most. And what we've discovered is even learners who have